Hello, MCU fans. Today we're going to take a look at the question of when does Quantumania happen in the MCU timeline. Now, it's kind of difficult to talk about a topic like this without spoiling the movie, so I do recommend you see the movie first, but assuming you've already seen it or, you don't really care about a few spoilers, then let's dive right in and see when does Quantumania happen in the MCU timeline. Okay, so first of all, you might remember that in Wakanda Forever, there is a book tour Easter egg for Scott's book tour about his autobiography, Look Out for the Little Guy. It's down there in the news ticker along the bottom. So naturally, one would expect that he's still going to be doing that book tour in Quantumania. Now, it's worth a quick note that this is different than his podcast, the podcast that was mentioned in Miss Marvel called Big Little Me. That's something different. So this guy gets around. Scott's writing books. He's doing podcasts. Pretty amazing. Really cashing in on his fame from being an Avenger. So it's different than that, but sure enough, yep, as expected, in Quantumania, he is on his book tour. And if you didn't know, this book is actually going to be for sale eventually on Amazon.com, etc., wherever you want to get it. $26.99, right? And you get to read about Scott's firsthand account. Should be interesting. I mean, I'm a sucker. I'm going to buy it, right? And I'll do videos on it. Don't worry. But should be awesome. But anyway, so yes, in the movie, he is indeed on his book tour. Now, what's interesting is, notice the banner there on the left. It says, meet today, and then something is written, handwritten, and then Scott Lang. So, as you might guess, that's the date that you can meet him. And while this picture, I tell you, we have tried so hard to be able to see it in just this picture, you can't. No matter how hard you zoom in and enhance, you can't. But I promise, in the movie, it is much more clear. So if anybody still hasn't seen the movie yet, or you're going to go a second time, let me know if you can pick it out from the movie. But we're pretty sure it says July 24th. So that's really cool. If so, that means they placed the exact day of the movie. And Marvel's been doing that more and more recently. Wakanda Forever had an exact date on a deleted scene. She-Hulk had an exact date. So it's pretty cool. They're giving us little hints and clues. The Timeline Keeper is trying to do their job, which is great. So theoretically, we know exactly when this movie takes place because it only covers a day or two. So, July 24th, 25th, 26th, maybe, probably the range of when this movie takes place. Pretty cool. All right, but it's also very important to look at Cassie's age, something that I've talked about in previous videos, so I'm going to go through this pretty quickly, but it gets worse. I mean, everything I've already told you, if you thought that was bad, it gets worse. So hang in there. Okay, so we need to look at Cassie's appearances throughout the movies. Her first one being in Ant-Man, right? And that movie takes place in July to August of 2015, and I do an extensive video on all of phases 1 through 3 and where they're placed, but I promise you, it is July to August of 2015. And at the beginning of the movie, July, is her birthday. We know that because it's a birthday party, and when Cassie gets the gift from Scott, she says, "Can I open it now?" And Paxton says, "Of course, sweetheart. It's your birthday." So theoretically, it's actually on her physical birthday, but if not, it's, close to it. So that means by the end of the movie, she's already turned whatever age she turns in Ant-Man, which they don't tell us, by the way. We don't know in that movie. So by the end of the movie, it's after her birthday. All right. Ant-Man and the Wasp, however, we do learn her birthday, or her age, rather. It's 10. And the movie takes place in April to May of 2018, right before the blip. And why do I say she's 10? Because Scott says she's 10. Scott says, "Hey, you try and entertain a 10-year-old when you can't leave the house. You know the lengths I've gone to? Close-up magic. I learned that." So, I guess some people have said, well, what if Scott got it wrong? I can only tell you as a father of a young kid myself, I don't mess his age up. I mean, I just don't. I know how old he is. So I think we can rely on this. Plus, time with Cassie has been so important. I would think he would remember her age. Nonetheless, it seems like at least that she is 10 in Ant-Man and the Wasp. That means that she's going to turn 11 in July. Remember, her birthday's in July. So in July of 2018, she would be 11. So therefore, we can backdate 2015 July. Well, she would be 8. So we know now she's 8 in this movie, at least by the end for sure. After her birthday, she's 8. So she's 8 in Ant-Man. She's 10 in Ant-Man and the Wasp. We can then move forward to Avengers Endgame in 2023. And now she's 16 because this is after her birthday. It's in October. And notice, I'm sure you remember, she was not blipped. That's why she aged versus Scott was trapped in the quantum realm, so he did not age, or he aged like 5 hours. But that's why he didn't get older and she did. But all right, great. And then Quantumania. which now we've learned is in July of 2025. So we know that Cassie's 18, and this is what really places us in 2025. In case you wonder, why am I saying it's 2025? Because Peyton Reed basically said it is. Peyton said to us, after the events of Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, it really occurred to us, Cassie's going to be 18 in this movie. That's great. The whole theme is time and how much time he's missed, and his main motivation is just, I want time with my daughter, and now he's coming into contact with the villain of this movie, Kang the Conqueror, who sort of has dominion over time. What does that mean to him? So Peyton Reed gave this quote on Nerd Bunker, and you can even go check it out if you want to hear him say it himself. But nonetheless, he's saying she is 18 in this movie. Awesome. This all works perfectly. And also, interestingly enough, they do celebrate Cassie's birthday in the movie with a gnarly looking cake. I love it. Happy birthday. But there's a reason why this is so nasty looking. They explain it in the movie. But anyway, and I guess it tastes nasty too. But it is worth noting, Cassie says, Dad, it's not my birthday. So I'm not sure what they're implying there. It might be that her birthday was earlier and he's just celebrating it again. I mean, after everything they went through, this is after they came out of the quantum realm, if you remember. Maybe after everything they went through, he wanted to celebrate for all the ones he missed. Or maybe she actually turned 18 in the quantum realm. That's a crummy way to have a birthday, right? But either way, they're celebrating her birthday, but it's not on her birthday. But Peyton Reed has made it clear she's 18. So, hey, look, this all works perfectly, right? Yay! She's born in July of 2007. She's 8, or turns 8, in Ant-Man. She's 10 in Ant-Man and the Wasp. She's 16 in Endgame. And she's 18 in Quantumania. The world is a happy, happy place. Look at this. It's beautiful. It's perfect. I mean, what could go wrong with now she's 6? Hold on. Now she's 6 in Ant-Man. What just happened, right? Oh my gosh. So you might remember I did a video talking about the fact that I was really hoping this line wasn't going to end up in the movie. They showed it in a preview, but no, it ended up in the movie. She says, Dad, a guy dressed like a bee tried to kill me in my room when I was 6. Well, you weren't 6. You weren't. You were 8. Now, she's of course talking about when Yellow Jacket, tried to kill her in her room. But no, she wasn't 6. It's not possible. That's not what happened. So it could have just been, she just messed up, right? She was young when it happened. She just forgot. I could accept that. I really wish that Scott/Paul Rudd would have turned around and said, hey, Cassie, I wrote that script, okay? I co-wrote it. You were 8 in Ant-Man. Trust me. That would have been awesome. But he didn't. He didn't do that. Instead, he let it go, which is fine. He didn't want to correct her. Dads don't correct their children sometimes. Of course, Hope's sitting there going, I think this is actually an error in the script. I think that Quantumania's script is wrong. That's why she said 6, not 8. Somebody correct the writer, please. But I did kind of wonder, joking aside, I wondered, did the writers really mess up? Did they actually think she was 6, or did they just think, just put anything in that you want? So, we're going to get that answer, trust me. So, again, to summarize, 8, 10, 16, 18, right? Keep that in mind, because Peyton Reed is about to show up to an interview, and I'm pretty sure he's drunk, okay? I'm pretty sure he's drunk in this interview. This is brand new. Within the last day, he goes to talk to Newsweek. And when asked about when it happens, he says, well, there was someone specifically recently, I can't remember who it was, who was tasked by Marvel to write that official timeline of how everything progresses. And there's the whole Earth 616 timeline, and now you're into multiversal stories. And then, of course, the weird 5-year gap in Avengers Endgame. It's impossible to tell. I mean, all I know is this movie takes place in present day, and because of the 5-year gap, Cassie is now 18 years old. Good, okay? So, she was 6 in the first and 9 in the second? My answer is present day. Oh my. He doubles down. She was 6 in the first and 9 in the second. So this had been what I feared. I feared not only would that line stay in the movie, but that people actually thought she was 6. This was not like, Cassie just forgot. No, this is the writers forgot. Now still, the in-universe answer is Cassie just forgot. So we're okay, right? Everything's going to be fine. But this is frustrating. Peyton Reed is literally saying she's 6 in the first movie and 9 in the second. And notice, he's still saying she's 18 in Quantumania. Oh, but it gets worse. You may say, well, that doesn't sound like he's totally drunk. Oh, no. I'm telling you, he's drunk. Then he says, I can't pick a year. You're going to have to go home and do the math on this. You're going to have to figure out the timeline. He's telling this to the reporter, for goodness sake. Anyway, he says, everybody thinks there's a sort of a safe room at Marvel where there's a big chart where it happens. But there is someone at Marvel whose job it is to keep the timeline accurate, but then sometimes it's thrown out the window. Oh my. Yes, he literally said, sometimes it's thrown out the window. Lord help us all. Please tell me my man was drunk. Please. Because if you're not drunk, Peyton, are you telling me that we should just throw this out the window? I mean, Marvel wants me to drop $50 for this, but it sounds like we can just throw it out the window. Oh, it has a foreword by Kevin Feige, your boss, but we can just throw it out the window. I'm thinking right now, as Kevin Feige's opening Newsweek and reading that, that's his face. That is Kevin Feige's face right now. He's like, no, I want them to spend $50. I don't want them to just throw it out the window. Oh my goodness gracious sakes alive. That is unbelievable. But for the minute, let's just pretend like Peyton Reed is right so we can see how insane what he just said was. So now Cassie is 6 in Ant-Man. She's 9, even though it's not yet her birthday. She's still aged. She's 9 in Ant-Man and the Wasp. I guess she's 14 in Endgame. And to make her 18 in Quantumania, it would have to take place in 2027. So it's 2 years in the future, Peyton? Even though, remember, Peyton said it's present day. I'm telling you, he was drunk. I mean, really drunk. Like, barely could stand up drunk. You know? Like, better not get in a car drunk. Call an Uber, because Peyton is drunk. All right. Guess what? We're ignoring that whole thing. Nope. It's all wrong. There's no way it's right. I'm open in the comments. If you think I figured this wrong, tell me. I'm open to it. But I'm telling you, Peyton Reed's wrong. She was 8 in the first movie, 10 in the second, 16, and then 18. Oh, my word. My word. Okay. Anyway, moving on from Peyton Manning and that, well, let me say one more thing. I think this is worse than 8 years later. And you may be like, oh, no, nothing's worse than 8 years later from Homecoming. Here's why I think it's worse. The 8 years later was in a movie put out by Sony. It's a Marvel movie, but Sony put it out, and Sony didn't write Avengers. So when they referenced 8 years before Avengers, it was technically 2 different companies trying to figure out the timeline. This is one guy. Peyton Reed directed every one of these movies. He didn't write them all, but he directed them all. He doesn't even know the line that was in Ant-Man and the Wasp that said she was 10. He doesn't even know that's in there. No, this is actually the worst mistake they've ever made. Period. This is worse than 8 years later. Oh, so frustrating. Anyway, I'm going to follow that up with a Nate Moore quote. I'm a glutton for punishment, aren't I? But no, actually, this does help us. I pick on Nate Moore sometimes. I'm not going to. Sorry, Nate. You're a good man. You're a good man. I like your quote here. We're going to use this time around. Okay. So he's talking about Wakanda Forever in relation to Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Let's see what he has to say. He says, well, look, if you think about it, this movie, which is Wakanda Forever, clearly happens after No Way Home and Eternals, probably potentially concurrent with Love and Thunder. New Asgard does exist in our universe, for instance, in our film, and almost concurrent with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which is coming out in February. So if we just pull out the relevant part here, he's saying Wakanda Forever is almost concurrent with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Now, granted, he also says probably and potentially in the same sentence. It's like you should never use a double negative. Well, this is a double, I really don't know what I'm saying. But nonetheless, what he said works out perfectly because let's finally pull up the Disney Plus timeline, which I always include in when I believe the month and year is. But of course, the timeline doesn't have that. But look, there we go. In this case, Nate Moore is dead on correct. You have Wakanda Forever, and then, just a little bit later, a few months later, you have Quantumania. Love it. That works great. Also, I do want to point out one slight thing I have changed on here. I have now listed Thor, Love and Thunder, as April to October. I did that because before I had September to October, because that's when the main part of the movie is happening. But remember, Jane gets that blood draw in April 30th. So that's when she learns she has cancer, and that's when she heads to New Asgard. So really, the movie does cover from April to October. And I'm bringing this up because somebody had mentioned, hey, it can't be that late because She-Hulk mentions Lady Thor. So how can She-Hulk mention Lady Thor if Thor is in September? Well, that's because she became Lady Thor as early as April. So I just want to point out, I don't like to change something since I know a lot of people pay attention to these dates without telling you. But so I am going to go ahead and say it's from April to October because that's really correct. I just wish they would move Love and Thunder earlier in the timeline, to be honest. But nonetheless, we'll stick with that. Okay, something else that's kind of cool. Miss Marvel mentions Scott and Hope go on vacation. And the video was loaded two weeks ago. Notice Ant-Man and the Wasp romantic vacation in Paris. This works out perfectly. This is so cool because Quantumania is before Miss Marvel, which likely means that vacation, which was about 2 weeks before Miss Marvel's first episode. They probably went on vacation right after getting out of the quantum realm, right? Well, Scott maybe healed up a little bit, but they probably were like, we need to get away and relax. So that's kind of cool. It'd be neat to think that they went on vacation not long after Quantumania. So, all right. Also, you remember I have this circuit board type of way of looking at the timeline because I just think this visually helps. So now we're going to add in Quantumania in July of 2025. And Quantumania connects with Wakanda Forever because of the book tour Easter egg and connects with Miss Marvel because of the vacation and also the podcast, The Big Little Me. Okay, so a couple more things I want to point out about the movie. I've been asked, what did you think about the movie? Well, I can tell you, I don't agree with the Rotten Tomatoes Critic Score. That's for sure. It is of the MCU movies, it is the second lowest ranked, with Eternals at 47% being the lowest. I don't agree with either of those. Are they the best movies? No, I wouldn't put them up near the top, but I'd put them solidly in the middle. This is what's so bizarre. So Ant-Man and the Wasp gets a 48% by critics, but Quantumania gets a 48%, and Ant-Man and the Wasp gets 87%. Really? You're telling me it's 40% better? I don't know about that. I actually thought Ant-Man and the Wasp might be a little worse than Quantumania. They're both good movies. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying I probably like Quantumania a little better than Ant-Man and the Wasp. I don't get that at all. And then Ant-Man, which is honestly my favorite of the three, 83% compared to 48%? I don't know. I don't understand the critics, obviously. And also, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania is ranked lower than Iron Man 2, Incredible Hulk, Thor the Dark World, and Thor Love and Thunder, all which are in the 60s or low 70s. I don't understand. I don't know what the critics didn't like about it. Everybody has a right to choose whatever they feel. And if they didn't like it, they didn't like it. But I don't understand. So, yeah, I would put it probably a 7 out of 10. I'd put it in the 70% range, a high 70% probably. So I will do a complete ranking of all the movies at the end of the year. But for now, that's about where I think I would put it. All right. Why did I like the movie? Kang was fantastic. He was everything I expected. With visor and without visor, he was so cool. That costume was unbelievable. His powers were unbelievable. He was menacing. He was frightening. Even when he's doing just the bare knuckle beatdown of Scott, he just look at those forearms. Goodness gracious, just scary. I need to work out more. That's amazing. And then some people said, oh well, it's kind of silly he died, right? Well, I don't know that he died. And first of all, it took a lot to kill him. It wasn't just a bunch of ants. Some people said, oh, he's killed by a bunch of ants. Oh, no. M.O.D.O.K turned on him. You had Ant-Man and the Wasp and Cassie. You had the whole revolution going on. And yes, you also had those massive ants. But anyway, I don't think he died because he got shot into the multiversal engine core. And remember, that core can access all points in time at once. it may be possible he's going to turn really powerful. He may be able to traverse the multiverse at will and not even need his chair. I mean, there are rumors, or theories, I should say, and I like this theory, that he may play the role of the Beyonder in Secret Wars. He may be super powerful. So I don't know whether he died or not, but if he didn't die, look out, because he is going to be something else when he comes back. And also keep in mind, in the quantum realm, he wasn't able to use his time devices. Think of how powerful He Who Remains was, where nobody could even touch him. So anyway, I loved Kang, and I loved M.O.D.O.K. I mean, first of all, in the comics, he's goofy. On Hulu, he was goofy. So yes, in the movie, he was goofy. In fact, he was just flat out derpy. I mean, look at that. But I love it. I love every minute of it. That's not bad CGI. That's hilarious rendering of him. I mean, I love it. I love it. And of course, he puts the mask down. Now he's a little more menacing, but he's still pretty goofy. But man, I mean, look at that beam. I mean, he had some weapons in his arsenal. And I think I mentioned this in an earlier video, but I have to point out again, I was not a stunt double for M.O.D.O.K. I did dress like like a Humpty Dumpty once. In fact, check out the video. It's on my channel. It's 30 seconds long. It's pretty hilarious. But I promise that was not me. There's no way I looked like that thing in the upper left-hand corner. Wow. Anyway, yeah, M.O.D.O.K. was incredible. And then, of course, as we've mentioned before, but we saw even more hints that Kang's tech seems to be tied to some of the other MCU entries. I mean, you look at these rings, and you look at the coloring. I mean, that looks so much like the bangles. So much. So there has to be some tie there. And also, they looks like the 10 rings, which, of course, Wen-Wu used in the movie. So that's very interesting. But then you also throw in, look at the symbols on the device that Scott got for Kang, and look at these symbols that were on one of the doors that Janet opened. They look really similar to these symbols in Eternals. So, you know, I was kind of hoping the movie would give us a little more and start tying it together. It didn't, but hopefully, we find out that all these things are tied together. That would be really cool. So that's it for this video, but I do want to point out I'm going to do a second video that covers all the multiversal ties, because, man, it's an entirely different discussion. Why these three are there, why this guy's there, but even more importantly, how does Loki tie in with Quantumania? So in this video, I just really touched on where does Quantumania fit in the 616 timeline and the Disney Plus timeline, if you will. But look for another video in about 2 days from now, I'm hoping, that really gets into how all of this stuff ties together. It should be really cool. Also, now we pretty much wait for it to show up on Disney Plus, right? And hopefully we can get that July date nailed down. Again, if somebody goes to the movie after seeing this video and you can tell for certain it's July 24th, let me know. But my guess is they're going to place it on the Disney Plus timeline in between She-Hulk and Ms. Marvel. And don't forget, we do have the Discord server. Lots of folks out there. We brainstormed things for this very video, and especially for the next video. Lots of hours of brainstorming for the content of the next video. I will put a pinned comment with this video that has a link to the Discord server. I will also have in the same pinned comment the timeline docs in case you want to download those. All right, and in the meantime, like this video, subscribe if you haven't already. You can check out more content, and we can all continue to enjoy the ever-growing, ever-changing Marvel Cinematic Universe.